8 mice were placed inside a perfect world. 4 males, 4 females, unlimited food, unlimited water, no diseases, no predators, no threats. 5 years later, every single one of them was dead. Not from starvation, not from illness, not from violence. They died of something invisible, something no one expected. This is Universe 25, the most disturbing experiment ever run, and the invisible info buried here explains why having everything somehow feels like having nothing, why comfort doesn't equal happiness, and why your generation feels the way it does. In 1968, scientist John Calhoun built what he called a paradise for mice. Perfect temperature, soft nesting material, fresh food on schedule, water that never ran dry, the healthiest specimens from the National Institutes of Health. But Calhoun wasn't just being kind. He was obsessed with one question: what happens to a society when nothing is hard anymore? He'd run this experiment 24 times before. Different locations, different designs, every single time the same pattern. Population explodes, violence spikes, mating distorts, then collapse, then death. Universe 25 was meant to be the perfect test, the final answer. He built a 9-foot enclosure inside a federal lab. Apartments stacked along every wall, connected by mesh tunnels. He called them walk-up apartments. The space could hold 3,800 mice comfortably. It never came close. On day 1, he placed 8 founders inside and shut the lid. For the first 104 days, everything looked normal. The mice explored. They established territories. Males claimed sections. Females built nests. A healthy society. Then the first litters were born. The population doubled every 55 days. By day 315, over 600 mice were crammed inside. They climbed over each other, slept in piles, fought for space. The paradise was getting crowded. This is when everything fell apart. In a normal colony, when mice run out of space, they leave. They find new territory. It's a pressure valve built into the species. Inside Universe 25, there was nowhere to go. Young males with no role and no purpose drifted to the center. They formed listless pools of bodies. Calhoun would watch them for hours doing absolutely nothing. They had no fights to win, no females to court, nothing to defend. They were well fed, healthy, and completely empty. When attacked, they wouldn't even fight back. They'd just lie there, absorb the damage, stand up, and lie down again. Calhoun called them the dropouts, mice who had psychologically checked out. But not every male went quiet. A second group became frantic and violent. They moved faster than anyone else, forced themselves into nests, skipped all courtship rituals, refused to stop even when attacked. They weren't building anything, just acting out aggression with no purpose. The females withdrew. The ones who couldn't find their place climbed to the highest apartments and lived alone. They stopped interacting with males, stopped reproducing, withdrew completely. Then Calhoun noticed something he called the behavioral sink. Even though food was everywhere, mice crowded compulsively around a few specific feeders. They couldn't eat alone. The presence of others had become so wired into feeding that an empty feeder felt useless. They needed the crowd, even when it was crushing them. Then the mothers began to fail. Defending nests became impossible. Males stopped protecting families. Mothers had to defend alone while nursing. They turned on their young, abandoned them. Some forgot which pups were theirs. Others stopped recognizing them entirely. In the worst sections, mothers ate their own offspring. Fewer than 1 in 20 pups survived. The social fabric was dead. The bodies were alive. The structure holding them together as a species was not. The pups that survived grew up with no model of normal life, no example of courtship, no territory defense, no parenting. And when they grew up, they behaved like nothing Calhoun had ever seen. They never fought, never mated, never engaged socially at all. They ate, they slept, they groomed obsessively. Their fur stayed perfect because they never got into fights. They moved through the colony as if no other mouse existed. Calhoun named them the beautiful ones. They looked like the healthiest mice in the colony. Clean, no scars, no stress. They were also functionally dead. They never reproduced, couldn't socialize. Their nervous systems developed in a world where every role was already filled, so they simply opted out of the species, alive alive, but not living. On day 560, the population peaked at 2,200. It never went higher. The last conception happened on day 920. After that, no new mice were born. The colony aged. The beautiful ones kept grooming. The isolated females stayed in their towers. Violence continued with no purpose. One by one, they died of old age with no replacements. On May 23rd, 1973, the last mouse died. 4 years and 10 months after Calhoun shut the lid, he wrote that the mice had died 2 deaths. The first was the death of the spirit. The second was the death of the body. The first happened years before the second. When his paper came out, the world misread it completely. People said, comfort kills, abundance kills, take away struggle and we collapse. The beautiful ones became a metaphor. Everyone used them. Religious leaders, politicians, urbanists, anyone warning about modern decay. But that wasn't what Calhoun actually said. His real conclusion was this: when the number of individuals capable of filling meaningful roles exceeds the roles available, only violence and disruption can follow. The killer wasn't comfort. It wasn't abundance. It was the disappearance of meaningful roles. When population grew faster than purpose, the mice with no place stopped functioning. The fighters had no one to fight. The mothers defended alone. The young inherited nothing. The food never ran out. The water never ran out. What ran out was purpose. And here's what almost nobody quotes. Calhoun spent the rest of his career trying to prevent this. He wasn't a doomer. He kept building new experiments, adding mazes, wheels, enrichment. He believed humans could choose differently. He wrote that the solution was to extend into conceptual space, into ideas, creativity, service, work that matters. He called it ideational generativity, making new reasons to be here. But the experiment sits there in the data. A perfect paradise. 8 mice, 5 years. Complete extinction. A cause of death no report could name. Here's the invisible info everyone missed. Universe 25 wasn't about mice. It was a mirror. Think about the dropouts lying in the center. They had food, shelter, safety, but no role, no purpose, no reason to get up. Now think about millions scrolling in bed for hours, physically fine, mentally numb and anxious, not starving, not unsafe, just empty. Think about the beautiful ones, obsessed with appearance, socially dead, forming no real connections. Now think about Instagram perfection, curating flawless images while feeling completely alone. Think about the behavioral sink, mice who couldn't eat without a crowd. Now think about people who can't experience a moment without posting it, can't eat without photographing it, can't exist without an audience. The parallels are everywhere. We have more food, comfort, and safety than any generation in history, and yet anxiety, depression, and loneliness are at record highs, not because we're struggling to survive, because we're struggling to find a reason to. Your brain doesn't just need resources, it needs a role, a place in the structure, a reason to participate. When you have everything to survive but nothing to feel alive, your nervous system shuts down. Slowly, quietly, you stop fighting, stop connecting, withdraw into perfectionism or apathy. The spirit dies first. This is the Calhoun Effect, and it's not happening to mice anymore. It's happening to us. But here's the other invisible info. The mice had no choice. We still do. The solution isn't bringing back hardship. It's consciously creating meaningful roles, extending into conceptual space, into creativity, service, work that matters, communities that need you. You don't need to struggle to survive. You need to matter to something beyond yourself. The beautiful ones opted out because every role was filled. But humans can create roles, build new ones, make ourselves necessary in ways that didn't exist before. You can teach what you know, create what doesn't exist, show up for people who need you, build instead of consume. The danger isn't comfort, it's comfort without purpose. So here's Calhoun's real question. What gives your life meaning right now? Not comfort, not entertainment, not appearance. What makes you feel like you have a role that matters? And if nothing does, if you're one of the beautiful ones, perfect on the outside, but functionally dead inside, what would? Because the experiment isn't over. It's moved from a 9-foot enclosure to the entire world. We have the food, the water, the safety. What we're running out of is the reason to stay alive inside it. The mice couldn't see it coming, couldn't name it, couldn't choose differently. You can. The death of the spirit happens before the death of the body, but unlike the mice, you can see it. You can choose meaning over comfort, participation over withdrawal. You can build a role instead of waiting for one. Universe 25 ended in extinction. We're not in Universe 25. We're in Universe now, and the ending hasn't been written yet. What happens next is on us.